CBS News foreign correspondent Holly Williams was one of the first network journalists in Iraq to report on the rise of ISIS. She has spent more than a decade reporting from some of the world's most dangerous conflict zones, including the front lines of Syria's civil war. Her reporting has earned her a number of awards, and this week, she's in town. She accepted the Alfred I duPont-Columbia University Award on behalf of CBS News for coverage of the migrant crisis in Europe. Holly joins us at the table. Good morning, so we can tell you congratulations in person and bravo.
Thank you. I was a very small part of a very big team.
Well, it's one of the most prestigious in the business, so we're glad you're here. President Trump has made it clear he's going to be cracking down on immigration on countries where terrorism is born or terrorism exists as he perceives it. What will this mean to Syrian refugees?
Well, I guess if you're one of the Syrian refugees who was hoping to come to the US this year, it's devastating because that's the future that you were hoping to have. But let's remember that actually the bigger picture is that America has taken so few Syrian refugees. I mean, last year around 13,000. Think about countries in the Middle East. You know, around 3 million in Turkey, over 1 million in Lebanon, over 1 million in Jordan. So it certainly sends a signal about how America sees this problem, but the bigger picture is that it's a drop in the ocean.
It's
anyway.
very small.
Yeah. It's so great to have you here because you've been on the ground. Today, President Trump makes his first visit to the Pentagon as commander-in-chief. He is going to be signing a directive through his defense secretary saying to strike more aggressively against ISIS. What more can U.S. forces do?
Well, America could do things very differently to strike against ISIS. I mean, you know, America could send in ground troops, for instance. But America hasn't done that because it doesn't want to get bogged down in a war in the Middle East. And I think, we've heard...
So when they say strike harder, what does that mean?
Well, I would like to ask that question as well. I mean, we repeatedly heard President Trump say, on the campaign trail that he was going to bomb the hell out of ISIS. And my question is, what does that actually mean? Because I've been inside the US command center, in Iraq, and America is bound by international law. It has to try and avoid killing civilians. And that process of seeing a target and then deciding whether or not it's safe, whether or not you're putting civilians at risk, that can take hours. And that's not going to change with a new administration.
What's the impact of Syria and Turkey bombing ISIS?
Bombing ISIS, Turkey bombing ISIS inside Syria.
I mean, they've come together now, as you know.
Well, I think Turkey has sent sort of mixed signals about how it sees Syria, whether it's, whether it's ready to tolerate President Bashar al-Assad, whether it's ready to do a deal there. It's difficult to really understand what Turkey's position is there. Certainly Turkey's moved closer to Russia, but there are so many players in Syria, Charlie. Even if Turkey has changed its position, there's still Saudi Arabia, there's Qatar, there's the US. And of course, the fundamental issue is the rebels, the guys with the guns on the ground inside Syria, who have always said that they cannot tolerate Bashar al-Assad staying in power.
Is the feeling over there, Holly, that we should be doing more in the Middle East? What do they say to you?
It's so hard to generalize about the Middle East because it's such a diverse region. There are certainly people who say they would like America to strike ISIS harder, to do more. And there are other people who say, we just want America to leave the Middle East, to end its involvement in this region.
What about what's happening? Where is ISIS now in Iraq? And how far have the advances been made by the Iraqi army?
Yeah, so I had thought that the Iraqi army was really bogged down at the beginning of the winter, that they'd sort of chipped away at ISIS in Mosul, and then we weren't going to see anything happen till the spring. And I was wrong, because it now looks as though the Iraqi army Iraqi forces have effectively taken back most of eastern Mosul. But ISIS is still dug in western Mosul. Several 100,000 civilians. We don't know how many thousand ISIS fighters. That's guesswork. And I think we can assume that they're going to fight to the death there.
All right. Holly, I've heard you say it's a bonus to be a woman covering the Middle East. I was surprised to hear you say that. What do you mean? In one sentence.
You get access to the men, and you get access to the women, and you get the complete story as a female reporter in the Middle East.
Thank you, Holly Williams, for joining us.
Great to have you here.
Really great to have you here.